All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream. We're live. Yeah, happy Tuesday. I know I haven't been around for a moment, but we're going to be working on where we left off. So we did some readjustments to the find and parsing. We added like another system to handle like array elements. And we refactored some stuff and made sure like the find and parse function was now in both places and not copy pasted, because we realized that it was copy pasted and we're like, why did we even do that in the first place? So that was silly. So today we're back to working on the descriptions. Now the reason why we left off and did the array element thing for variable parsing in descriptions is because we realized that we didn't want like this whole string. We had this as an array, and so because of that we needed a way to parse the array to not display the full string. So there we have it. So now we can continue working on the other thieves thing. Actually, it looks like they're already done. So since they're already done, we can proceed to the next thing to do. I think, yeah, okay. So after thief comes, let's do trapper. So the trapper class. The sprint ability gains 60% bonus movement speed for 3 seconds. So we're gonna, and once again, it looks like we have our array here. So we just get to utilize that system now that we've made it. So this is going to say 60% element 0. And for how many seconds? 3 seconds. And I am going to change the wording here to say 3 space seconds to be a little more consistent with how we did all the other ones. And then we have mark target. Marks an enemy, lasts 7 seconds for 5 hits. Marks detonate for 60% of attack for every hit and ability. So we got a couple of substitutions to make. First is how long it lasts. So again, I'm going to adjust the label ever so slightly to 7 seconds. And I'm going to replace this with the variable duration. Let me get my keyviz up. There we go. Duration. And then we have for 5 hits. So the stat count determines how many hits it's supposed to be. So we can go ahead and display that like so. And then we have marks detonate for a percentage of the attack. So right here we have the damage increase bonus. It looks like it's directly calculated. It's not like a multiplier or anything. So we can just literally supply it with that of attack from every hit and ability. And then down here is bear trap. Sets down a trap. If caught target is already marked, reapplies the mark and causes bleeding. Now, it seems like for this one, we're missing a lot of detail. Like, a lot of the other ones have, like, timings and descriptions, but it's like, this one doesn't. So, like, sets down a trap. The trap doesn't expire, by the way. At least I don't think it does. If caught target is already marked, reapplies the mark and causes bleeding. I guess we could put how much damage the bleed would do. So like marked target, bleed. It looks like it provides how much percent damage and attack it does, the duration, and the damage per second, or the damage, the tick duration. Hello friends, welcome. Yeah, stream just started, so people are probably going to be popping up here in a little while. But yes, welcome, welcome. Good to see you all. Mark target bleed. So, let's see here. How do I want to word this? We have a damage multiplier. So the trap does do damage on hit. So it's like, I kind of want to make it so it displays that. Caught deals a certain amount of damage. So we're gonna use the damage mult parse tag for damage mult here, which should be fine. Deals blank damage. Applying a mark. Well, let's see. I think every target gets like a bleed. So the wording before kind of hinted that like a target that gets hit again, the bleeding reapply, like that's when the bleeding applies, but I don't think that's actually the case. So I'm gonna go over to the Trapper file and let's take a look at ability 1. Or ability 2, excuse me. So here we create a bullet called Bear Trap. We're just gonna go right into the Bear Trap class and look at its implementation. Inside of here, we can see on monster hit. There is an enchant related to this. We're not really interested in that one right now. So, reset stack count, number of stacks to replenish, apply mark. So, it looks like we apply a certain amount of marks related to how many seconds it lasts. And then we apply a dot. So this apply dot does not, let's see. The damage, or whether or not this dot gets applied, oh, let me see. If mark stacks before hit is greater than 0. Oh, I see. So the number of stacks gets passed into this function, and that determines whether or not we apply the dot in the first place. Okay, that's fascinating. So only targets that get hit and trapped has the damage get reapplied. It looks like it also applies a slowdown and a knockup. So does it deal damage? I'm sure it does. Yeah, it does. Okay. Because this is a bullet and it has damage, so on touch it just applies the damage. That's just how every bullet works. And so let's go back here. So basically we have to say deals a certain amount of damage. Marked targets reapplies the mark. Reapplies the mark on marked targets and causes them to bleed. And causes bleeding. So I want to say like refreshes the mark on any marked targets and causes bleeding. Yeah, it's a little like tricky to word this one, but I think we pretty much have the wording kind of works here. So sets down a trap, deals a certain amount of damage. Caught enemy deals blank damage to caught targets. Refreshes the mark on any marked targets and causes bleeding. I think that's a good way to handle it. At least wording wise. So I also want to mention the actual bleeding like stats. That's probably why we didn't mention it before, because it's in an array and we didn't have the ability to display stuff from an array before. So this causes bleeding for the duration is the second argument. Mark target bleed argument or array element 1. I'm gonna change this to be 10 seconds. And then dealing a total of... So the total damage will be based on the percentage multiplier times this times the attack. So unfortunately, we don't have a way to get the player's attack right now. Like, we'd have to provide some kind of keyword specifically as a substitution for the player's attack stat. if we wanted it to work. So maybe we will, right? So we can do something like this, where we say, okay, mark target bleed. But then I run into a problem. Like, our parser currently only allows one of 3 things, right? It allows either a colon separator, it allows an array separator, or it allows a multiplication separator. Unfortunately, I can't combine all 3. So then the question becomes, do I separate this out a little bit so I can implement that? Or do I just not bother? Or do I do something else with this? Like, it's a little tricky, right? I would either have to, like, combine the parsers somehow, or I would have to come up with another system to handle this. I've programmed in C++ for a little over 6 years, and I've been programming since I was a kid, so I'm approaching 24 years of programming, so that's fun. But yeah, I don't particularly like this, so maybe we don't mention the tonal. We just mention the 2 durations. So we say, causes bleeding for a certain amount of seconds, and dealing, and then we can say damage mult here on mark target bleed. Although this isn't a multiplier, right? This is a percentage, so it'd be like, let's try this. So we're gonna do damage, like damage percent, I guess. Damage PCT. I think we already implemented that. Let's take a look. So, we just called the translation function PCT. So I can just use that wording for a percentage. PCT for marked target bleed. See, but we still have to parse the elements. We still have that problem, right? Can I fix that? It's like, instead of relying on one symbol, like saying that the whole thing is one of these 3 symbols, it's like we keep consuming the string, trying to find any of these symbols each time. So right now the flow of the code would go, bring in some kind of string, like a variable name, the whole thing that we enclosed in those curly braces, and then figure out which symbol it is, and then based on that, do some parsing, right? That is the current flow. What we need to change it to is take the variable name, iterate through, like, well, basically a while true, right? Start an infinite loop that says, okay, look for any of these 3 symbols. Based on those 3 symbols, do some parsing on the... It's kind of like we have to divide these into tokens or something. So, like, for example, each of these is a valid separator that means something different. So instead of saying, like, the whole string is one of these, it can be any combination of these, and so we have to split them up based on these things and then parse them again from there. So it's almost like we're accumulating, let's see. It's like we're accumulating different tokens to parse. Like, for example, like the example we're trying to do right now is like, let's just say it's like bleed 1 and it's like PCT, right? And even the original example, my goal was to do something kind of like this. Damage mult, colon, bleed 0, multiplied by bleed 1. And this doesn't even consider, like, order of operations, which, if we wanted to go that far, we'd also have to parse, like, parentheses or something, or do everything left to right as a rule. Which is simpler, of course. But, yeah. That's interesting. So do I want to go this route, or am I making things too complicated? Like, this is just for one little thing. We could technically hard code it, or we could develop another way to handle just this kind of scenario specifically. Like, specifically say, look for this, and then look for another symbol and handle it from there. Or just use an entirely different symbol to mean, like, maybe if we can provide another symbol that kind of has meaning, then maybe that could work too. Like, maybe a, like, division symbol or something to represent damage over time, providing two values that way. That's not entirely a bad idea. Is the game open source? Yes, the game is open source. It's hosted on my Git under the domain sig.project.devar or sig.projectdevar.com. It's also HTTP, not HTTPS. There is a valid host on HTTPS. So a lot of people that tried to type this in, they get redirected to HTTPS. So you might have to manually type it in to get to the site. But all my projects are here because this is just where I post all my stuff. It's not on GitHub, which is both good and bad, but allows me control over who can access it. So there is that. And by who can access it, I mean I basically auto-ban any, like, bot scrapers or, like, LLMs that try to access the site for the sake of, you know, trying to grab the code. It kind of auto does that. So yeah. Anyways, variable name. So yeah, I'm thinking I'm, like, probably doing too much for just, like, one little thing. So we can just say mark target bleed damage per blank seconds, or every amount of seconds, right? I think that's pretty much how we're gonna go. We still have the issue of we have to actually say, like, get a specific element, but I think we can make this a little more flexible. So what I was thinking was, instead of putting the recognizer down here and integrating it here, just make the parser look for the array syntax itself. I think that would be better. So let's go ahead and try to utilize that. So we're going to say that the array syntax can apply to any of these two symbol tokens instead. So first I'm going to remove that from the list of allowed tokens. And instead... See, now there is a problem. The problem is, if it doesn't have one, it's just going to try to parse it directly, but I guess that's fine. Let me see here, because if we return false here, then the next step would be to try and parse it. So we gotta go back down here and take a look at how this works, right? So this is specifically for enchants, but let's go back to... This is the one for just a variable. So the one for a variable, it specifically looks for this exact value. So if I can make the find and parse work natively... Okay, so we have to adjust this if statement, so we can get in here and parse it that way, right? So let's assume data has property variable name could also instead contain a parsed version of it without the array syntax. So maybe we do a little bit of manipulation with this variable name first. So let's call this base variable name. Oops. Oh, I'll mention another thing about the open source part of it. The repo doesn't come with any of the commercial assets for the game. So it's strictly the code itself, like basically a skeleton of the engine. Unfortunately, you can't really run the game without the assets, so you either have to supply them or basically make your own. So it's mostly for learning versus like actually being used by other people. and I highly doubt anybody wants to actually use this engine because it's not really written to be used but for more than one thing. Oh, okay. Thanks for stopping by. Hope you have a great stream. So base variable name. So what we're going to do is we're going to assume that... Okay, so this is interesting. Yeah, we're gonna assume that this might have like an array element. Because it could. And if it does, we want to parse that. So let's just start with the variable name and then say if util tokenize. Well, let's first detect that has an array separator, right? That would be the first step. So if base variable name dot contains a one of those open brackets, then we're next going to check if tokenize parses. Well, it doesn't return true or false, it just returns what the tokenized version is. So this means that we do have an array element here. So set base variable name to be util tokenize. Tokenize the base variable name based on the array open array separator. Oh, how'd I do that? Like so. So with that out of the way, we can then set it to the 0th element, because we know that this is, if this contains this, we want what's on the left side, which is going to be the first argument. We hope it's the first argument. If this thing ends up returning more than one value, we do want to like error out, because we want to know we're only expecting one value here, not more than one. Unless it's like a combination value. Okay, never mind. That would be a bad assumption. Okay. So like this would handle the case where we have something like this. Like damage mult. No, this would only handle the cases where we have something like damage 0. That's what this handles. So since this is the base variable name and we know data has property base variable name, we can then parse for that specifically and say, okay, grab whatever element of base variable name it contains. I guess we do need the index though. So, maybe we handle this a little different. Let's change this to actually be a vector of strings. And this would contain a parsed array variable, right? I think that is okay. So we're gonna say if variable name contains that, then also I'm not gonna initialize it with anything. We're going to say parsed array variable and place back the 2 tokens. Basically, we're going to get a string out of it. So standard, oh, let's just do this actually. Parsed array variable equals util tokenize variable name and parse by those. And so now we can grab the first element of parsed array variable. We assume that's actually what the key, I guess you can call it. And then here we would do get property parsed array variable 0 and s2i parsed array variable item 1, which should contain the index, in theory. Too many arguments in function call. What? I'm confused. Forget property? Oh, hold on. Because we just do get full string. Oh, that's the issue. We do get full string. So basically what we're saying now is if data has property... We just added a new condition. Okay, I see how this is gonna go. So basically we have three possible options. Either it actually is an array variable that we parse. It's not an array variable, in which we stick with the original that we had. Or we assume something else. So we can use the original code here before, but now instead of get full string, we do get string s2i the index. Like that. So those are our three options. I would like it to be a little more clear that this is our intent. Like, it's not very clear just reading this what is actually happening. It almost looks like it's just copy-pasted code that almost looks the same, and in the future I might look at this code and be like, why did we do this, right? And maybe delete stuff by accident. This looks like a very important case for that. So I think what I'm gonna do, and I like using this technique sometimes, is I'm going to make a boolean that says, like, is... What should we call this? Like, is array... Oh, I have caps lock on. Is array a variable? And set that based on whether or not this is true, which then I can pass that along into here. And then I have another boolean that represents is normal variable, which would just be the inverse of it, right? And then because I have these two booleans like so, now I can just replace the if statements with those, and it'll be more understandable what is actually going on here. Because now it's at least a little more readable, and I'm not questioning, like, why did I do it this way? Also, this else looks a little suspicious, because there's a brace here. I think that's a mess up. This should be else if. Yes, okay. So that looks more correct. Okay. So we're getting rid of the array symbol indicator. And now we're down here. So this is the next part of this. We kind of already parsed if it's an array variable, so we can actually use this statement to determine if we use it elsewhere. Or actually, we want to kind of just parse it specifically inside of here. If we can. Like, I've already tokenized it by variables like this, so now it's a matter of doing, like... I'm starting to see that maybe we want, like, get property to somehow manage or handle the array element itself. Like, it almost looks like we need a bigger picture change here related to the data file getters. Hi, I am new here. Is there a MVP? That's, what was that? Oh, minimum viable product, right? Well, the game currently has a demo released on Steam, so I guess that kind of counts, right? It showcases the first world, story mode, showcases how combat works, 3 of the classes, and 2 of the bosses in the game, so I guess that kind of counts as one, because I'm just working on the actual game at this point. Also, hello there, ABL. Welcome to the stream. Thank you. I assume that's what you meant by MVP, because, like, I'm not very familiar with a lot of these terms. Why are there standards in your code? I'm not a programmer. So, STD, despite its name, stands for the standard library. In C++, the standard library is, like, categorized in one giant, what they call a namespace. So, like, for example, I have my own set of functions in what's called a util namespace that I have access to. and it just kind of organizes things. You can think of it as like categorizing all your functions. That way it's not like super crowded. Like if I make a function called s2f in util, it can be separate from the standard namespace. So that's kind of the idea. Keep things kind of separated and avoid name conflicts. Some libraries get really egregious though and try to like either nest namespaces or make really long namespaces. Like it reminds me of like old what they call like Java. I forget what they're called. I think they're called packages in Java, but it's like in Java you have like a reverse naming scheme where you put like for me it would be like com.divar.sig or something, and I would prepend like every specific package using that thing. It's like, but yeah, it's just kind of fascinating. It's another way to do it, but in this language. Okay, so I'm I have a little bit of internal conflict right now because we are parsing here, but the parsing needs to happen in potentially all three of these. So somehow we need to adjust our tokening to handle that somehow. So maybe we end up adding a brand new method of handling that. Because right now what I mean is that like we have data that get property, but it's like what we really need is like a get property. I'm trying to think here how I want to do this, because we could go templates. So templates would be kind of cool because we can specialize a couple different templates. For example, get property standard string, and that would call the get string version of this. Then we just supply like this, and it would be able to figure that out, while alternatively being able to supply a string instead of a vector, and it would also be able to figure out that, because then I can go down here and I can do the same exact thing. I can replace this with token, which then gets auto parsed, right? Like that's what I'm thinking right now, is maybe the array stuff gets parsed inside of this get property function that we make up. I'm starting to think this is like the way to go. It's an interesting proposal, and I kind of like it. It might have to be more descriptive though, because what this is actually doing is get like pair property, right? And really what we're trying to do here is like send in both the string itself and the array element, which by default could be 0, but could also be passed in as s2i element 1. Like that's a very real possibility too. So I'm trying to come up with an abstraction where I can have both the best of both worlds, but also kind of hide some implementation details so I can focus more on just this part. So that's kind of interesting, but I do like this idea. I think it could work. I'm leaning towards that, but I'm thinking of making the name get pair property, because it's literally only dealing with 2 values. And what it would do is it might not even accept this. What it might accept is an entire variable with this part in it and just handle that itself. Like, I think that would be fascinating. I kind of like that. So I kind of want to try. So let's go ahead and I think a template class is good because it then allows me, well, I also see we're only dealing with strings here. So maybe we don't need the flexibility of a template. Maybe we can just say get pair property. Maybe say get pair string property. I think this might work. So it could be as simple as that. Another, it looks like it can be constrained inside of this lambda function. So it would look something like this. Our input would be the variable name itself on standard string ref. variable name. And what we would do is we would first see, again, if it is an array variable or not. And then if it is, we end up parsing it that way and returning. So the return value is actually just going to be a string. Return standard string. Oh wait, there we go. And then here we're gonna put return. Well, yes, so we would actually just call return here and say, so we need the data file. We'll pass that in as well. And we would say data get string, or excuse me, get property util tokenize element 0. So we actually need 2 values from this. So I'm probably going to go out here. I don't know if we can I'm pretty sure with this we have to, like, I would like to be able to use the, I think this is called destructuring syntax, but I don't think that works. Key and index. I'm pretty sure it doesn't work for a vector. Like, it would have to be a pair or something. Unfortunately. Cannot bind to non-public member. Yeah, that doesn't work. I love coding. Yeah, me too. Absolutely. Okay, so we're not gonna do that. Instead, we will do standard vector parsed array variable. I can just bring this in here. Like so. Oops. And then take this, and we can parse it a little further, right? So we can say const standard string ref key is going to be parsed array variable 0, because the assumption is, since we split by the open bracket operator or the open bracket character, that the first should be the key and the second should be the index. So this should be a size t, and it's going to be a standard. I found out we were supposed to use s2 unsigned long, not unsigned long for a size t. So it's gonna look something like this, and then we can say get property key, get string using index, like so. And if it's non-array variable, then instead we tried to do it just by parsing it the other way, which is just return get property key with a default argument of 0. Now, what if this doesn't exist? So that's the next part, right? Is it's possible this doesn't exist, so maybe instead we return an optional string, and we first check if, first of all, if it's an array variable, then we better damn hope that this actually exists, but we still have to check for that. So we have to say and, oops, data exists, or has, yeah, has property key. Then we can do this, and then otherwise we see if it has property key normally. Well, either way it has property key. I guess it's just a matter of, does it have this index or not? So what we should check then is data. It would be like get property size. So we would then say, let's see here. We're gonna need like a nested if statement, because we have to then check keys, get keys. I don't know if we have like either a size or a length. I forget. No, I'm not seeing one that counts how many keys we have here, other than doing get keys and then size, which I guess is fine. That's not really expensive. I assume get unordered keys is faster. Let me see. get ordered keys. Okay, ordered keys should be slower, right? Because it returns like a whole nother map, if I'm not mistaken. What game engine or library is this? This runs on the OLC Pixel game engine, which despite its name is actually like a framework. So think like Raylib, but for C++. It's created by a fella on YouTube that goes by JavidX9. Yeah, and he's the creator of the OLC Pixel game engine. And it's a nice little framework, very easy to get stuff on the screen for. So if you're interested in more of like a hobbyist kind of like workflow, and you enjoy just like having fun, like making little projects, then this is probably a good fit for you. And I use it for this game as well. Do you just prefer getting away with as few spaces as possible? Yes, I purposely do not press the spacebar. That's just a coding style I developed for this project. Oh yeah, like even... This is a very recent one, but I started doing this where I don't even include... You can see, like, I haven't done it on these because these were all old, but I've started doing this as well, which I didn't even know was possible. I'm like, save the spaces. Or, I guess, get rid of the spaces. So yeah. That's just my coding style. I developed it over time. A lot of people say it's very messy, and I do agree. Like, I definitely couldn't get away with this in, like, a production environment, but for my hobbyist project where I'm the only developer, I think this is fine. To me, it's very readable, but to some people, I had a YouTube comment the other day where they're like, your code is complete spaghetti. I'm like, thanks, I guess. They probably meant, like, the structure of it too, not necessarily just the fact that everything's squished together, but you know. It's kind of interesting. So this actually provides a view, so it's not an expensive function, but I also don't need that when I can just return the map itself. So we're gonna use that and just do dot size. So we're gonna say dot size is at least 1, or no, it has to be less than or equal to... No, it has to be less than the index. No, it has to be greater than the index. Let me do it the other way, because in my head it makes more sense. If index is less than the size, then it's part of... Then it definitely exists, at least. Will it parse? That's another problem. But at least we know it has that. Yeah, and I guess I'll just put this up here. I don't see why not. I was originally thinking maybe I could like store this value and then .get keys. This isn't really expensive. Well, maybe it is expensive. How expensive is this? It kind of is expensive. It doesn't look cheap, that's for sure. So maybe I should cache this value. Let's do that. So let's make another variable called the data file property. Let's see here. Actually, I think I can do them inside of if statements now. You can do something like this. You can say const data file data or prop data. And you can literally set a variable before doing a check, at least I think in C++ 20 and above. So you can do this, put a semicolon, and then the condition comes after it. And I believe this is a C++ 20 feature. And then you can do something like this. And that just saves us a bit of compute, while also allowing us to squish things down a little bit. And then over here would be the other one. And then finally, if we can't parse any of that, it just returns an empty optional, which means it couldn't find anything. So now we can go back out here and we can say get pairs string property is now usable even for a normal variable. So we don't check for normal variable. We just I actually don't know what this was before. This was like, oh, it has property. So it's more like we're gonna find out if it has a property or not, right? So I guess we would do an if statement very similar to this, where we'd say like standard string well, standard optional string, we'd say something like pair string, or it's more like unpacked variable. Unpacked var, I think, is an okay name for this. So then we do this. We use the variable name from the arguments. We use data variable name as the arguments. It returns the standard optional string. And then that is going to actually be the conditional as well, because if it returns false, then we know it didn't work. At least in my head, that's how that should be. This needs a semicolon because it's the end of a lambda. And then down here, we just substitute it with that instead. So if it can't find anything, there is the get full string, which is what we would have to do. So this is interesting. If it can't find this, or rather, if it has no index, the actual original behavior is to get the full string. So maybe we just do that to be safe. That way the behavior doesn't change just because I did that. So it would now be unpacked var dereference. I assume dereference is before the addition operator. Do you have a small monitor, or does it just make it easier to read for you? Oh no, I have a very large monitors. Right here you see this is 1/2 of one of my ultra wides. I have 3 of these. So like over here is one. So you'll see me look over here sometimes. Over here in front of me is another one, and then over here is a third one. Each of these are 5120 by 1440p. So what I can do actually is I can literally take a window and I can stretch it across like multiple monitors as well. So that's actually why I code really wide, is like all this appears on one monitor for me. So sometimes I'll do that instead. And when I'm streaming, I just have it auto jump between different monitors. So yeah, that's kind of how the setup works, which is why the compactness is just because I want to see as much code as possible. Because I also stream, I run on a bigger zoom level, so I do like to see as much as I can, despite the text being so large. Like, the text isn't even that large. I used to do something like this, but it's a little hard to work with, so I try find a good middle ground. But yeah. I think this was actually the size. It's like 140%-ish. Yeah. So anyway, let me just double check that this is doing what I wanted to do. So operator precedence. Operator precedence. C++ says that dereference is... Oh, I don't like this. I can't... Is this 2 or 3? There's no, like... This thing has no border. How do I assume this is in 2. This is kind of bad. This used to not look like this. This site used to look different, which kind of annoys me. But anyways, yeah. I think it's because they, like, enabled... It's like, it looks like a wiki now, or got transferred to... I don't know the story behind it, but apparently it's, like, can be edited now. So that's kind of interesting. Anyway, I'm gonna assume it's precedence 2, and addition is, like, way down here, so we're probably okay, regardless. So yeah, since the dereference operator comes first, that should do exactly what I want it to do. Have you ever tried a vertical monitor setup for programming? Not really. I don't feel like it's as useful for me because I program wide. Like, I feel like if I went vertical, I would be doing, like, this all the time. Which I think a lot of people actually do. Like, this is probably pretty, like, normal. But I don't do that. Like, I go really wide, so it doesn't really work for me. I probably have a different coding style if I did vertical. Yeah. So now we figured out if this got unpacked or not. I'm trying to think if I missed any case here that I didn't cover prior to this, but I don't think I did. So now the question is, does this behave like before? And what was the original problem I was trying to solve? So now we can actually take this and bring it down here, because now it's like a reusable function where we can say, okay, assume that the token that was parsed for your multiplication might have more array values, and if it does, parse those as well. We're gonna assume that there is a result string here. Oh, we don't have... Do we have to S2F this? Yes, but why is it complaining? Function cannot be called with the given argument. Oh, right. We have to pass in data. Can we just assume data? Let's just assume data. Why are we passing it? It's gonna be the same in all cases, so we don't need to do that. I would say argument name, or excuse me, variable name too, but I think that runs into... I think that makes it look a little weird for a function. I'm like, okay, why does it have 0 arguments? So this makes the most sense. But yeah, now we can pass these in and assume that it might be able to parse it directly, which I kind of like more. So then here, the separator key... Okay, this just doesn't... Does this still exist? Key value pair? Okay, it does. So we would assume the value could potentially be a pair string. So we're going to put that here now to see if it outputs something. I think that covers all our bases. How do you debug if you mush everything? Well, I mean, you could still see things are on multiple lines, right? But... like, for example, let's say it was trying to run... Like, we were debugging this line here. It would breakpoint here. I would just start by... I would just go into wherever it was on. So the first call would probably be like get property. So I'd be like, okay, if I go into get property, I know that's what's happening first. And then it says returned whatever into prop data. And then you can still debug it. Like it's not suddenly undebuggable. It's just you have to follow each function call, which you kind of do here too. It's just a little less visual, right? Like if you had it like this and your program broke here, then like you're like, okay, well, it's just one step, right? One extra step. But then if it's like, if my program broke here on this line, then I'd be like, okay, I'll just breakpoint here and I'll step into each function that gets called. Still results in the same thing. I think it's just a little harder. It requires a little different thinking. But yeah. I think this is good. This accomplishes what I need. So what we can do now is we go back here. This should now parse. And maybe we can take it a step further. Can I multiply two values now that I'm interested in? Like, can I do... I still can't combine 3 tokens, though. I've just made it possible to combine 2 tokens, which is fine, I guess. So this is every mark target bleed element 2 seconds. Element 2. I'm actually going to include the seconds in here, so I don't have to put the word seconds there. 1 second. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and try to build this project now, and we'll see where we're at. If we do crash, then my assumption is it'll probably be something related to, like, it'll probably just be a missed case. Like, we probably parsed the variable when it didn't have an array element, and then it broke. Like, as far as I can tell, this will work. Also, I don't think we need this variable at all, so that can go away. Yeah. But, yeah. Obviously, with the way I program, it does come with a few, like, complications, but that's just how I program. And now we wait. I hope everybody's having a lovely Tuesday. Or maybe it's the end of Tuesday for some folks. Who knows? To me, this looks like a nightmare to debug, and I would rather not work on your project. Well, good, because I am the one that works on this project. So, excellent. But I agree, like, from a realistic perspective, this isn't something I would I wouldn't write this way if I had to intentionally work with other programmers, because again, like you said, it would be a nightmare to read and debug. So you're right. This is a solo dev project, so it is written with that in mind. Like, I've had some folks ask me like, oh, but shouldn't you like practice coding in a way that like you're going to program in like getting a job or something, especially if you're looking for one? And I'm like, it's just syntax. I'm not gonna like permanently like be in that kind of, oh, I'm running unit testing. Oops, we don't need that right now. Great, I just built the unit testing one. Oops. But it's like, I can change it to whatever style people need, but I'm not gonna program my own project in a certain way. Like, it is my project, so I think I should be able to take the liberties that I would like to. Yeah, I do agree. And I understand, like, some viewers that are watching my stream are trying to, like, learn and understand, and this doesn't help, right? But at the same time, like, I think already this project is large enough to where, like, you need so much context to understand what's going on and really have to dive into it that, like, most of the time I think people just watch because they are just fascinated by how I code and what I'm doing. And that's pretty much like, it's usually surface level, right? Like sometimes I run into a problem, they're like, oh, this standard library function exists, or maybe you should try doing this logic instead. Like we can contextualize it down to very tiny like sub problems, but in the end, like for the big picture stuff, I don't expect anybody to understand how my game works from start to finish, because that's just, even me working on it over 3 years, like there are still systems I have to revisit that I forget about. And that's just the nature of a large project. And the irony is, I like to tell people that, yeah, that's why I try to use like descriptive names everywhere. So when I return to them, like I still understand what's going on when I come back, but then I also code kind of messy. So like at the same time, while I'm trying to make it easier to read, I don't do myself any favors by making it hard to read at the same time. So it's kind of ironic that that's how that ends up being. Okay, so let's take a look. Let's start here. Okay, we crashed. So that was like the base case. If that crashes, then we've done something terribly wrong, right? So that's a good sign that I've messed up. So here, oh, it looks like we assumed that we were parsing it. So again, I'm like, maybe we assumed like the parse was wrong, but it's only parsed one thing. So there is no element 1. There's only element 0. So that already messes things up. So let's add an if statement that says if parsed array variable is dot length, or no, dot size is, let's say, greater than 1. That means we have at least one value we've parsed, so we can do all of this. Oh, off by 1 line. And then otherwise, we assume that it isn't parsed, so we would just do it this way. Now, key is local to here, so we do have to bring that out. We assume that there's at least one value here, otherwise why are we even doing this in the first place? It would have been an empty property. Hi there, Saladin. Welcome. Thank you. Good to see you. Okay, let's try this again. It's just a source file modification, so it shouldn't require a full recompile. Damn, linking takes forever. Okay. Like, that's also one of the realities of Like, I would really like to work on my next game project. Like, if it ends up being at least a medium-sized project, I do not want to write in C++ again. Like, the compile times are terror for me at this point. I'm like, I kind of don't want to work on another medium-sized project in C++. I would like a language that doesn't take 10 million years to compile and allows me to use its features liberally. Like, somebody was like, oh, it's probably because you don't have like your include like precompiled headers would help. Incremental build, I've already done incremental build. I do multi-processor compilation, readjusting dependencies, so like when you adjust a header file, it's not affecting as many files, but that requires entire refactors. Like, it's just really exhausting that that's like the reality I'm at, where I'm like considering refactoring the main header file. Because if we just look, I'm just gonna hold down, I'm just gonna scroll with page down, we can see the mess that has been formed with just the main game engine. It's like, I don't know. I would prefer not to use a pre-built engine. I like to have full control, especially if it's a hobbyist project. Sure, if like the tech stack already had an engine or was based on an engine, sure, I'll use the engine, fine, that's whatever. But I'd rather not have to learn the abstractions that some other engine has decided for me. I would rather build up abstractions on my own, because that's more fun. Where's the fun in building a game if I don't get to make all the parts to it? Then I'm just making the content of the game. I mean, obviously with these engines, you still have to build a lot of the features of the game, but a lot of the like core engine features are kind of the fun part to build. It's like kind of the reality of game programming, at least from a programmer perspective, is like the most fun parts for me are when I get to design new systems, because I get to start from scratch and build everything. If those systems are already pre-made or have like pre-built components to them, then I'm just trying to make them work with whatever I want the game to do. And that's more of the like game design perspective of it. Like, yes, it might involve some programming, but it's not as fun as building it from scratch. Since I like the programming aspect, I want to do as much programming as I possibly can versus not doing any at all, or doing very little. Like, for me, it's not about like the game is the end result and that's what's fun. It's the process of making the game. So that's just how I approach it. Like, I don't find the game, I don't even do the game content. Like, basically, I work with the game designer and they go in and make all these stages for me. They're the one that figures out, oh, what is the enemy balance gonna be like? What are going to be the items and equipment in the game? Like, these are purposely editable so my game designer can go in and actually make all the stuff. I'm just making the thing that makes the game come to life. Which is a very important distinction to make. Like, I have actually tried to make games in the past, and when it comes to creating the content, that's when I realized I don't have fun making the game anymore, because I don't actually enjoy making the game, I enjoy making the engine for the game. So I thought that was like a fascinating thing to realize at the time. So that's why when I first was proposing like, hey, I want to work on a big project, I was like, does somebody want to design a game for me? Because I don't want to do the design part, I want to program it. So I thought that was like an interesting discovery. A long time ago, I used to use STL or Pygame, but for some time now, I only use Unity. Oh, okay. Yeah, and that's all fine. Like, really, you just use whatever you're comfortable with, or you can get stuff done, right? Maybe you prefer the features in some library or framework or engine compared to another, so that's kind of what you just lean on, right? Okay, what is going on? I've just been clicking around. Let's see. So we're in here. It crashed here. Could not find a variable. So what's the variable? The variable is PCT colon attack increase in parse variables. Why are we calling parse variables right now? We're calling it for new description in just in get description with player modifiers. Okay. So new description parses the variables. Parse variables calls find and parse. Find and parse errored out, right? It errored out saying could not find variable PCT attack increase for ability battle cry. So basically this find and parse, we didn't get to the part where it tried to parse other things. So let me see. So it unpacked the variable and went here and failed. Okay, but we needed to go down here because it's got like extra symbol indicators. So it's more like what we have to do is see if it has symbol indicators first, and then decide if we're going down here or up here. This is like the case where we couldn't find a special symbol. So let's see if we can fix that up. So what I would like to do is let's first get this variable out of here, the unpacked variable, and then the logic now is find a symbol, so like all this goes away, and the indicator could be not found, and if it's not found prior to this, it would just return false. But if it can't find one now, then it defaults to assuming that it just has to parse it normally. And if unpacked var, that means that it was able to find something, so then do this. This is like the default. Otherwise, just return false, which I'm just gonna leave like that. Hi, first time here. This looks fun. Yeah, welcome, welcome. Just doing lots of coding. So I did break down this find and parse system, and we're just trying to debug it right now. But basically, we have a bunch of ability descriptions in-game, and we're trying to make it so it parses these like special tags, which determine how they parse. And I was just modifying it so that I can do a combination of like both like a colon and the array marker syntax at the same time, which is a little more tricky, trying to like reform what I already had around it, like basically refactoring it. So we've been working on that, and it still crashes. So now, let's see, it probably still, so it still can't find it? Let me see. Yeah, so same issue. We might have to go into debug because I assume this is optimized out, which is why the stack doesn't go further. So yeah, like this whole, it's like this whole function's optimized out. So we're gonna have to do that. Okay. Fair. Debug is slower, but sometimes we need it. Why not just handwrite wall of text strings instead? Because it's very likely, and I already talked about this with my game designer, that balance changes are going to happen once the game is complete, right? So let's say the current timeline is the game is pretty much done by August. The problem is the game has not been playtested, at least not thoroughly. So during the playtesting phase, which should take about 2 months or so, we're going to be spending time modifying things. And if you have to modify something, then like, let's say, instead of doing this, I like hard-coded mark target bleed like description, and I said 10% for 10 seconds, right? Maybe I just wrote this here and then I substituted that variable for this, right? And then later my game designer goes in and is like, oh, I want it to be 20% now. Saves the file, runs it, everything works great. Now the description is wrong because he forgot to change this. I would like it to automatically be able to detect that, hey, I've changed it here and I only have to change it in one place. And my game designer shouldn't have to know that I might have multiple extra copies of text strings that are formulated from manually deciding what values to take from here. So that's kind of the logic behind it. Because if it was just by myself, I could be like, well, I could probably hold myself accountable for this, or write something like change this when you change above, right? And I could do that in multiple places, but at some point you encounter like technical overload, or maybe not like technical overload, more like you encounter this problem where every change you do has to be done in multiple places manually, and that adds up to a lot of extra work for almost no reason. Things that code can kind of solve for you if you program it correctly, right? I worded it as like, I want my code to be as dummy proof, as stupid proof as possible. If I have to go in and change something at multiple places, it kind of brings up like a red flag, because I'm like, well, why do I have to remember to change something here and then go over to this part of the code base and change it here? What about like 6 months down the line? Am I going to still remember to do that 6 months down the line? Right? When I look at it again? Okay, I want to breakpoint here, I guess. It didn't give me any other call stack information, which is fascinating. So we're just gonna breakpoint right there and see what happens. Because it said it was for Battlecry, and Battlecry is like the... it's probably not the first ability that's going to have this, so I might have to jump a little bit, but let me take a look. Warrior.txt. So the Battlecry is the... Okay, it is ability 1. There is a parse here. So it looks like it's going to be one jump through this breakpoint to reach it. Probably. So let's go in here. So we hit this, but this is going to be the one we're not interested in. Boost the... Oh, it is. Okay, cool. So, percent attack increase. Let's go in there. And let's see here. Unpacked var is a null opt? Really? Okay. Let me think about that. So it couldn't find an array operator, so that makes sense. That's what it should have done. Tries to find a symbol, should have found a colon. So let's see here. It does. So the indicator is a key value pair. So then it's going to go down here to this switch statement, which is where eventually we will hit that error, right? So right here, separator key is PCT, and separator value is 0.1. So far so good. It actually properly parsed the 0.1 from here and put it into its own string, so it can handle like a single value proper. So that's good. Let's continue. And then I believe, let's see. So it didn't have the property separated value, so then return false occurred. So separator val was 0.1. Oh, so it already parsed it. Interesting. So it already parsed it, and we still have that statement in there that reports that it couldn't find it. So that's why it returned false. This isn't true anymore. Now the whether or not it exists is determined by this function instead. So this just goes away. And that leaves, well, that leaves that. Let's try one more time and see if it runs now. Because we basically moved the error handling into this new function we made, so that's no longer an issue. Okay. Oh, there is one other thing we're gonna address probably tomorrow. As of late, I've noticed the game itself does... I can pull this up real quick. When it's loading stuff when it's loading the game, you can see the memory is jumping up a lot. It's almost using a gigabyte of RAM just to launch the game, which is a little surprising, but also not surprising because I realized that I basically load all the graphics right at the start of the game. And we've reached the point where every graphic in the game is a lot of data. So we now have to address it by actually having like a way to load and unload resources on the fly and like make that part of the level loading process. We already have a level loading process, so we just have to add another step to that and take care of handling loaded and unloaded textures. So just an interesting little tidbit there. I'm trying to figure out what is going on here. So we have an unordered map at call that failed, and it was 0.1 for unordered map. Because obviously that's not a property name, that's the value. This was pulled from what? Why are all these here? How'd you all get here? This is inside the data file, but that's not what we care about. Let's see. So this came from... So it's still the same piece of code. Add to description was failing. So we passed in to special prefixes the data and the separator val. Separator key. So it's supposed to be PCT colon. So this assumed it was the name before. So that's the problem, is these functions originally expected the name of the value, I think, and did a get string on them, right? Yeah, it did. So now it just assumes that this is actually the value instead of the name of the value. So we have to modify that to say val instead of indexing further into that data file. So it's literally just this now, since we moved the value parsing out of here. Tell your players to buy 32 gigs of RAM. Right, for a little retro pixel art game. Yeah, to me, if I'm writing in C++, my game better be damn fast. I've got no excuses. So I need to fix that up, right? There have been a lot of optimizations I've already made in regards to like rendering, and a lot of that works a lot better. So now we gotta address the actual memory, which we haven't really done up till this point, because obviously up till this point there hasn't been enough maps to where that really ever mattered. Just program like AAA and don't give a shit about what RAM's required. That's funny. Yeah, unfortunately that doesn't sit well with me. Like, if I'm going to give a game to people, then I want to give them a good product, right? Oh, we're finally in the screen. Hooray, it parsed. Okay. So let me just check, see if anything anything weird happens. Looks okay. So thief still doesn't parse, so let's find out why. So this is... We basically were trying to program it so we could parse the thief's description today. So let's see what that's about. So I don't think I need these guys. Ability text is roll in a direction, gain movement speed buff 0 for movement speed buff 1. So it's just trying to parse very basic array arguments, and I guess it couldn't figure that out, interestingly enough. It says, cannot find variable move speed buff 0. So find and parse return false here. Let's see if we can predict how it would have done that. So... Get out of my face. Okay, so it would have eventually called this. This is what would have been responsible. So it does contain one of these. So it would have parsed it and tokenized it. The size of it should have been greater than 1. Parse the second element as an index, and then do get property. see if the index is less than these, and then return get string. Prop data is data file data.getProperty. It looks okay. So obviously we're gonna go ahead and now try a breakpoint on it and see what happens. But so far it looks okay. But yeah, realistically, I don't think my game should require more than like 300 megabytes of RAM at any point in time. It's literally a pixel art retro style game without too many like complex things going on. It's not a game that warrants eating up your RAM. And yes, computers have a lot of RAM nowadays, but also RAM is very expensive nowadays. So like, I was looking at it like, in my mind, I'm like, I'm just gonna go buy a stick of RAM. But that's not a viable option anymore. Oh, I didn't mean to click that yet. Crud. Shoot. I needed to breakpoint first. But yeah, I was thinking like, oh, I'm just gonna go buy a stick of RAM and upgrade this like old computer's like RAM. And I'm like, never mind. That's not actually viable, right? Anymore, at least. It used to be like right before AI was going crazy and RAM became ultra expensive. I did upgrade my main programming PC to have 100-something gigs of RAM. It's now sitting in... It's in my girlfriend's computer. But yeah, like, I'm glad I got those before that happened, because that's at least $1,000 now, which is insane to say. Okay, let me breakpoint. Let's breakpoint right here, because this is where it's gonna do stuff. Okay, click. Variable name is damage okay, so we're gonna ignore this one. We want to get to the one that has the array element. So these are just other descriptions they already passed. So here we are. So let's see what happens. So is array variable is true. This returns 2 elements, move speed buff and this, which just gets parsed out. I was just kind of lazy there, but yeah. Key is move speed buff. And we know the move speed buff variable does exist in the config, so we know that part's taken care of. So let me go back here. It's called... Wait, up here it's move speed buff? Hold on. Is that right? Move speed buff. Oh, did I typo this? Wait. Movement speed buff. Okay, this is a different one. Hold on, where's move speed buff? Move speed. Oh, I'm in Trapper. Oops, I meant to do Thief. Okay, this makes more sense. So, move speed buff is somewhere. Here we go. So move speed buff. We know this variable exists. It's got 2 elements. Okay. So, it does know there's 2 elements. The index should be 1, or excuse me, 0, because it's move speed buff 0, and then all this. So, let's see here. It was like I said earlier, somebody was like, how are you gonna debug it? Well, now we're actually debugging it, right? So this should actually return. I'm not really worried about this function, because if this function didn't work right, then we have bigger problems. So we're gonna step out of that. And then we have get keys, which is fine. That should have returned... Oh, it returned no keys. Wait a second. Did I reference the wrong array? Prop data. Oh, I did. I was supposed to reference the original data's get keys array. Oops, that's my bad. Because all prop data has is the data for the actual thing. It doesn't have the keys. So that's a typo. So it should be data get keys instead of prop data get keys. Where we get the data from is prop data. So that's my bad. Because you can even see here we do data get property, and then we do the wrong data structure to actually get the keys. So it's like, we kind of messed up. Okay, cool. That was an easy fix. My ex thought I was crazy getting 64 gigs of DDR5 for 270 a year or so ago. I know, right? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna put down 200 bucks and get 64 gigs of RAM, no problem. Not anymore. I was lucky to buy 32 gigs a year before the RAM disaster. Damn. It's wild now. Like, one of my, my composer for this game, the music composer, he recently got a new computer, and he's like, what do I do with my old one? I'm like, I'll take the RAM. Can you give me the RAM? I'll just take the whole computer. But no, we found another use for it. But yeah, I'm like, I'll take the RAM. I'm down for some more RAM. Alright, I assume this works now. Yay! Okay. Let me just check if there's anything funky here. Looks good. Trapper. Okay. Now we're probably doing something... we started working on this, so let me see what this is. PCT marked target bleed does not exist. Okay. That's probably where we left off. So I think we're on track. Let me see. Trapper... It was like PCT marked target bleed or whatever. Where? PCT marked target bleed. Oh, interesting. So it didn't parse like the array thing. I wonder why. Okay, so that should have worked. I guess we need to find out what happened. Okay. Well, good thing I didn't go back to release build. My computer sold. I have to buy all the parts, but it's too expensive for me now. Aw. That's unfortunate. Time to buy a new computer, I guess. Okay, for this one... I guess we're gonna breakpoint back to here and just work our way through again, because I'd imagine the problem is... The problem has to be after this, like, token parsing inside of our switch statement. So right here, we're supposed to parse it like this. So I'd imagine the problem is something... probably this line. So let's breakpoint into here and see what happens. That would be where, like, the most shenanigans would occur. Yeah. Today we finally get to do quite a bit of programming, since I started early enough. I've had a bad track record of not being able to start my programming streams early enough lately, so I haven't really had a good, like, sit-down coding session as of late, which I was a little upset about yesterday, so I'm glad I get to do this today. Okay, so this is damage mult, and separator value is 2.5x. Okay. So, separator key. So the separator key is still damage mult. Oh, so this is that case where, again, the separator value was assumed to be the separator val, which is no longer the case. So what does that mean for us? For damage mult, it has to... Okay, so... This is... I guess this is where, like, the conflict occurs. Because this is actually not supposed to be val. How are we supposed to get the player's attack and then multiply it? Well, now val just represents the actual damage mult. So that should be fine. Yeah. Like, as far as I can tell, this wasn't even the error, right? It was something else. It was that marked target bleed thing. Okay, let's keep going. I forgot we had more. Oh, but we don't even hit this with that. Okay. Let me just make sure. PCT marked target bleed. Okay. So that would be PCT colon. Oh, wait a second. Oh, did I mess up? Wait. Mark target bleed 1. Should have been here. 10 seconds. And it just says, okay, key PCT, mark target bleed, no array element does not exist. Called by, again, same line, right? Oh, not here. Get out of our error reporting. Right here. In find and parse. Okay, so we can just take a look at this directly. It's kind of... all the data's there for us, so... all the results. So, it didn't find... oh, interesting. It said it was an array value. It parsed it, so we got PCT mark target bleed, and we got 0. So, we're in here. Index was 0. Key is PCT mark target bleed. So we have to actually ignore... no. We should have been in here. Like, we should have been... so we didn't hit this breakpoint. This was the breakpoint we needed to hit first. So that's fascinating. Why would we have not hit that breakpoint? Because unpacked var just calls this at the beginning. So this... is this old? We don't need this anymore, right? Oh, it's down here. Okay, good. So it's only needed after the fact. So we can get rid of this. And we can bring it all the way down to this if statement and just say, okay, standard vector, standard string, unpacked var, set, and see if unpacked var, then do stuff. And that's basically it. What happened? Okay. This should be an... oh, this should be an optional... oops. This should be an optional string. Okay. Player Senpai, thanks for the follow. Welcome to the stream. Yeah. That should be it. Okay. Just some leftover from earlier when we were like rearranging the code and figuring out how we want to structure everything. And with that out of the way, I don't suspect we'll have any more problems, but of course, you never know, right? So we'll see. What I really should do, at least I was thinking about, was writing a unit test that just handled, like, testing all these player modifiers, or these descriptions, and seeing if they all, like, you know, compiled and ran, and produce the right result, right? So I assume this works now. And it does. Oh, this one's a really long one. Sets down a trap, deals 25 damage, 2 caught targets, refreshes the mark on any marked targets, and causes bleeding for 10 seconds, dealing 1000%. Did I mess that up? I think I messed that up for every 1 second. Yeah, I think I messed that up. Plus, it's also way too wordy, so that's another thing we can address. Kaylee Bears, thank you for the follow as well. And welcome. Okay, let's see if we can cut this down, because this one's really long. Maybe we don't say set down a trap. Well, I mean, the fact that it is a trap is important. Deals blank damage. Maybe we could assume, like, 2 caught targets. Like, obviously, if it's a trap, it's, like, set up for things to run into, right? So maybe that's too... that's not necessary. Refreshes... so this part is the part I have trouble explaining. Refreshes the mark on an already marked target. causing bleeding. So causes bleeding to marked targets. Let's just say that. Causes bleeding to marked targets. Dealing... I don't know what this was for. Marked target. Oh, it was the duration, right? Dealing blank damage for... Because this is like per tick. I don't know. I think I still have to say like every second for... Like, I don't know. That's kind of tricky. It's so funny to see you scrolling code horizontally more than vertically. Oh yeah, that's how we do. But yes, hi there, Kylie. Welcome. Yeah. So what I want to do is, like, yes, I wrote PCT here, but that's only if we have to interpret it, I guess, as a percentage. So it's set 1000% by multiplying by 100. So that's actually not necessary. We just write dealing 10% damage, right? But then, what does that even mean? Players might assume that's like amount of health, which doesn't make any sense. So it should be interpreted as a damage multiplier, which means I would end up writing like 0.1x here and redoing the marked target bleed getter inside of trapper.cpp. So instead of relying on damage mult, like, is it damage mult? No, it's marked target bleed. So we're gonna go inside of bear trap. Let's look for uses of marked target bleed. It looks like there's no reference to that. Hold on. Let's look for entire project. Marked target bleed. Okay, I need to be more specific, I guess. What? Where? Oh, here we go. I found it. So bear trap on monster hit. This is where it does it. So right now it... element 0. It currently divides by 100. So if it's a multiplier to the attack, we just remove the divide by 100, and that should fix itself. And these should be the only... hopefully the only references to it. It looks like there's a unit test on it, although it's for element 1, which is fine. That's not a big deal, because we didn't change that. Anything else? It looks like that is it. Cool. Alright. Very good. So we just adjust the context of it in code. That way we can write the correct thing here. So then we can say damage mult here instead, and have it display an actual damage number for the player. And I think that makes more sense. That'll be a lot more readable. Okay. So I think I'm happy with that. I'll go ahead and run it again. And then if that's good, let's do a commit, because we made some pretty important changes. Oh, did I change Enchantress by accident? Oh. That I did. Oops. Let's undo that change. Not good. Can I... let me... unstage and how do I... can I just undo this? Like right here? Okay. Oh, wait. Should be marked target bleed. I'm pretty sure I can just say restore. Like, I should be able to say restore... Oh, here we go. Undo. It's like this little button. I'm like, I should be able to undo it. Okay. This looks a little better. Although I used a semicolon here and I capitalized this, which technically is incorrect grammar, but we don't care right now. Sets out a trap, deals 25 damage, causes bleeding to marked targets, dealing 1 damage every 1 second for 10 seconds. Which is actually correct, because I think the default, like, the default is, like, very... the default damage is very low for a ranger, I think. Does it say starting stats? Alright, excuse me. Attack 13 starts at 13, so yeah, round down, it's 1 damage per second. If we're talking 10% damage multiplier. Okay, we have to do a witch next. So let's just commit real quick, because we made some significant changes. So, moved array parsing for ability descriptions from being its own symbol to being, oh gosh, I'm typoing everything today, to being integrated with the other symbols when they are parsed at the same time. Other than that, we also added Trapper, or updated Trapper skill descriptions with dynamic text. Yes. Cool. So that will be release build 13641. Cool. Alright. So far so good. And then let's do witches. Hopefully we don't need like anything else, any more special stuff, right? That would be great. So now let's open up the witch configuration file. And let's see here. Transform into a cat, leaping to target position while avoiding attacks, then transform back. There's not really anything to say about this. It just does, so apply a curse on a target dealing damage over time. So this one, we definitely can. So here's the debuff. Dealing damage over time, this is going to be a 1x multiplier every time between ticks is 2 seconds for a total curse duration of 8. So what I would like to do is make it say every 2 seconds for 8 seconds. Right? Dealing... So then we can substitute here. This will be damage mult curse debuff. Colon curse debuff, element 0. And then for curse debuff element 2 over, or no, it would be every curse debuff 1 seconds over curse debuff 2 seconds. Okay. There's also a final tick damage, which I don't know if that's really important to mention. I guess we could. There's not really any harm in doing that. When the final tick deals damage mult final tick damage. Did I like miss a message? I didn't even see that. I don't see anything. Hopefully it's okay. Like, I know sometimes like things mess up, so hopefully I didn't miss something. At least I hope not. Right? Anyway, oh, you know what? I probably know what happened. Yeah, that makes more sense. Okay. YouTube chat has this thing where you can look at just like the I guess they call it, what do they call it? They call it like the top messages versus all messages, right? Because like I guess some messages don't have like, don't meet their like quality rating or whatever. So yeah. Throw poison. Throw a poison bottle at target location. All targets caught in the range take poison damage over time. Okay, so we can break this out. So it has a damage mult, which is the initial damage. Dealing damage mult damage at target location. All targets caught in the range. All targets, I'll say, also take poison damage over time. The poison damage is 0.5x every 3 seconds for 30 seconds. So take damage mult, poison debuff 0, poison damage every 3 seconds. So I do want to change these so they pop up more descriptive. 30 seconds and 30 seconds. Poison debuff 1 over poison debuff 2. Cool. And then we have target is cursed with a debilitating spell, taking double damage for 7 seconds. So there's really not much to say here other than maybe putting the damage amplification in here, because we can dynamically say taking blank extra damage. Damage amplification, extra damage for 7 seconds. Which I guess is fine. What I'm curious about now is I know Curse of Death has an enchant that modifies this. So let me look at ability 3 for Witch. Ability 3 for Witch. Okay. So right here, there's Expunge and Curse of Doom. If a target dies while Curse of Death is active, the target causes a large explosion, dealing all the damage accumulated during Curse of Death onto nearby targets. Okay, in that sense, that doesn't really matter. Okay. That's fine. Now that makes me wonder, like, do I have to work on the descriptions for all these enchants too? I feel like I've only done this for Ranger. Is that true? It looks like that's true. I've only done this for Ranger. So what I'm talking about is that, like, enchantments have, like, descriptions, right? So these are things you can apply to rings in the game, which then modify how abilities work. And because they modify how abilities work, they can also potentially change the name of the ability, and they might also add or change the descriptions of them. So on top of modifying the descriptions in here, I also have to account for modifying or adding any descriptions from in here. So I think I have to work on that next. Yes. Hi there, Pedro. Good to see you. Welcome. But anyways, let me go to release desktop and let's just make sure in game we can see all of these spells, descriptions. And then if that's good, we can start looking at the enchants, because there are, I think each class has 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Or no, 7. Yeah, it looks like every class has 7 potential special enchantments that can be applied to your abilities. And if that's the case, what we end up doing is in-game, if you equip items with those enchants, then you should change, like, you should change all the descriptions for them. So, did we crash? It looks like we crashed. Okay. You're gorgeous. Oh, thank you. What kind of RPG is this? A classical RPG or an action RPG? So this is an action RPG. Very, very much like Zelda in that sense. Yeah. It's a fun little action adventure RPG game. I would actually make it more akin to like Secret of Mana style in terms of speed. I think Zelda's a little more slower paced, but that's because you have more like, in my opinion, Zelda's more of like a strategic action game. Because like usually your options are a little slower, but they have more intent, right? Versus just swing sword, deal damage. Could not find translation function for key damage. Oh, did I put wait, I put a space by accident? I probably did. Damage, space, mult, colon. I did. Oh, it's right here. Yeah. No space. There's no translation function with that name. So that makes sense. But yeah, we're up to like almost 800 megs of memory usage just for loading this game, which I definitely don't need to do at the start of the game. Like, we don't need to load every single map image and graphic. So we definitely have to work on that system next. Apply a curse on a target dealing 10 damage every 2 seconds over 8 seconds. The final tick deals 20 damage. Throw a poison bottle. Wait, why does it say 10? Isn't that weird? Because, like, I thought the damage multiple was 1. But oh, maybe it doesn't use the base attack of the character we're looking at, but the base attack assigned to us. Yeah, the base attack of the warrior, because that's like, that was the first class that was implemented, so that's the default value it uses. I feel like in the title screen, when you're deciding which character to play, showing the damage using the base attack should be the right play. So let's see if we can make it so when we choose an info screen, we base these stats on this damage value. I think we can make that happen. And I think there's 2 pieces to this. The first piece is finding the trigger for clicking these, which should be under the class selection window. So let's go to the class selection window, and then there should be 6 info buttons, 1 for each class. So if we look somewhere down here, wow, some of this is so bad. We used raw pointers for these, which is fine. I guess that's not terrible, but like the way we refreshed it is literally just delete the pointer and recreate it, which is kind of hilarious. I think that's funny. But yeah. Let's see here. I guess it's because in here is where where it handles all this stuff. So let me see. Yeah, this is where, so basically every time you click the info button, it recreates a new info window and just deletes the old one, which I think is pretty hilarious. It's like the lazy way to reconstruct the window, right? Instead of modifying all these elements. So that's funny. But yeah, so we're interested in adjusting these displays based on the attack display text. So since right here is where we click to do this, I guess this is the time to also set up the base attack to display. So right now, it just references it from class info. Oh, so that's interesting. It actually does come from class info. But the ability descriptions don't use this, apparently. So I guess that's the second part, was like, where did it get this attack from? Did it get from here, or did it get from the attack stat in-game? So what we have to do is set the player's attack stat at this point in time. Now, is that going to cause issues? I have a feeling it won't, because I think we also set the player's attack when we actually start the game, right? We hit the confirm button, which is... Where's the on-click for this? Okay, that's to enable the confirm button. Where's the confirm button? The confirm button is... Here we go. So, selected classes, whatever. Reset player and change class. I assume this is the function where we actually set up the player. So this is where we, yeah, we set up the attack right here. So we can actually modify the attack right when we open an info screen and accomplish the same thing, right? So let's go back. A little too far back. And on click of the info box, we spawn a what? Here it is. We call initialize class info window, and at the same time we're doing this, we can also set the player's attack. So we'll say game get player, oops. Game get player. Set base stat. Game. Actually, I think we have the class name, so let's just use that, right? It should be in class data. Oh, here's the data. Okay, so let's just bring this down to after we retrieve the data, and we'll do get property. So instead of get property base, wait. Okay, so this is interesting. It retrieves it from there too. That's fine. I'll just do this. We don't have to parse another string to get that information. So that can go away. So yeah, if we set the attack here, then the label will properly, or these labels, when they populate, should properly adjust to be based on the class's base attack. Which is ideally what we want. Oh man. I'm glad we don't really have to do any more UI stuff anymore, because, man, looking at this code brings back a lot of memories. But yeah, basically I hand-rolled my own game UI, and it was an insane feat to accomplish. I'm like, that's definitely something that in the future I would like to either, like, make a proper, like, little mini library for, or maybe even rely on a library from somebody else. Because that was one heck of a job. So now looking at this, we can see it now says it deals 15 damage because it's supposed to be based on a 1x multiplier. But then we go to, like, the warrior, and the ground slam is 5 times, or excuse me, 2.5 times 10. So now the attack stat accurately reflects how much damage the character would do if they were a level 1 character for their specific class, which is nice. Okay, so that's just like a small bug fix, I guess you can call it. I guess the witch is done. Did I forget anything? No, I didn't. Okay, cool. So let me go ahead and commit this, which dynamic ability descriptions implemented. Descriptions implemented. Added or made ability descriptions on class selection window. Display proper damage values based on a level 1 character of that class instead of defaulting to warrior's base attack. And that is release build 13643. Now, technically, I have accomplished what the goal of this feature branch was for, was to update the ability info tooltips. But like I said, there's a whole nother side of the abilities for enchantments. However, I'm not actually going to consider that part of this feature branch, and instead I'm going to create a new issue specifically to deal with that one. So the one we just fixed, I think, is in here because it's been around for a while. Let me see if I can find it. Tool tips, ability. Oh, I thought we had an issue for this. I guess not. Interesting. I could have sworn we did, but damn. Okay. Well, in that case, I guess I'll just add a new issue. So, enchant abilities. Descriptions. Sans the ranger, every class needs to have enchantment tooltips added. And that should be that. Okay, so that's for later. I think at this point I'm ready to PR this into master. New pull request. Okay. Oh, you know what? It's not gonna pass right now. Because I forgot we were... This branch was in the middle of... I branched this in the middle of the other branch we were working on for the boss prior to this. So what I should do is go back to the... I want to say the Shadow Boss branch, and I want to merge ability info tooltips into Shadow Boss branch, because that's originally where this came from, and currently has the 3 failing test cases for the ground slam ability for warrior. So I'm gonna go ahead and sync all that. Hopefully it works. Fetch, and this UI sucks. Sync. Okay. Push, pull and push. Cool. So Shadow Boss is now merged with that other branch, which is where I derived ability info tooltips from. So now we're caught up, and we can go back to, let me close a bunch of tabs. Now we can go back to the warrior class file, and we were actually in the middle of the ground slam effect being implemented, where I kind of just left... I just had the knockback effect in here, but none of the damage. So basically, the 3 tests that would fail are related to the knockback, which I think we can just look in here because it always fails. So if we look in here, our continuous integration says that we have failures on... Wait, the build failed? What? Why'd the build fail? The build should not have failed. I think it looks like that one was cancelled. Probably because I committed it too quick. Okay, here we go. So, failed. Okay. So the fails are related to how much damage the improved ground slam with enchantments are supposed to be. So... you can see the damage value ended up being different, so it didn't assert properly. Hi there, Yellow. Welcome to the stream. And then, yeah, improved ground slam enchant check failed, which is expected because the damage no longer works. And then here, slam shock no enchant check does not properly make the monster not move anymore, so the stun effect is not working either. So a couple things we have to fix. Okay. I need to take a quick break, so I will be right back. Okay. Oh my goodness. Alright, you still got like an hour of coding to do, so let's get on that. C++ is confusing. I started learning it a week ago. Yeah. It is very confusing. It's pretty hard language. But it has a lot of features once you get into it. I found it pretty fun. I do agree. The code readability is pretty bad. That's just my coding style at work. Yeah. So in here we were working on, so a lot of this code used to be inside of adventuresinlestoria.cpp, inside the player, or is it the player? No, it's inside the player, the player's update function. So we're gonna go to update for the player, and if we go down, I assume we have something related to like ground slams. Let me just look for that. There it is. So this used to be held in like a giant kind of state machine, which is why a lot of this is like not really working right now. So there's a couple things we're gonna have to do. Also, Quizats, thanks for the follow. But yeah, I don't like really type with spaces, and I tightly pack a lot of my stuff. Like, I can actually tell this is old code because nowadays I format if statements with one line like that. So I can already tell this is very old code because my coding style changed as I programmed, as I went further in this project, because this project is 3 years old. So naturally, over the course of 3 years, your coding style changes a lot. And so naturally, a lot of things have shifted for sure. Yeah, that's why it looks so, probably so unreadable. That's like most of it, is that everything is compacted into character after character after character. So I guess according to this, we already deal damage. Like, we deal knockback, we deal damage. Or do we do damage? We do. So this is iterating through everything that was hurt and knocking them back in the appropriate direction, which is already most of the behavior of Ground Slam. However, all the enchant stuff did not make it. So, like, I think we just called it, like, improved Ground Slam or something. I don't know where we actually did that, though. Because that's interesting. Let's see in here, when we execute Ground Slam, what happens. We call the spin function, and then we just call set iframe time. So the spin function is kind of what, like, sets up the class to do its thing. So both the player class and the monster class have their own spin functions. So let's go to the spin function. And here we set the state to spin, we have an attack timer, a speed, and an angle. So naturally, when the attack timer is finished, the player should land on the ground, and anything hit, it should spawn a ground slam effect to do the damage and the hit, but then it might do additional stuff which is not accounted for in here yet. So we have to look at that too. So I'm going to see if there's any code related to spin attack timer. Looks like there is right here. And it looks like we do spawn the effect here, so that probably does what I needed to do. I don't see anything about enchants though, which is interesting. That's a little concerning. I'm still trying to catch up on what we were doing. So this is like going back, I think 2 weeks ago we were working on this branch, so let's just see what happened. So this is all from the merge. Fix case sensitivity for Molotov. Merge. Where did we do stuff about Ground Slam is the question, because this is all like unit testing. August or April, May. Wait. May? What? May in 2020. Why are these out of order? Oh, I guess the merge brought the... Okay, those are the merge, so those got brought in. Merge branch, Shadow Boss into Linux Fix. Finish converting Battlecry to entity compatibility. Okay, so it was right after we converted Battlecry. Let's see. So it was literally right here is where we kind of left off. Isolate ground... Here we go. So this was the last time we worked on Ground Slam. I guess I'm gonna pull this up because it's kind of... We're kind of squished right now. Let's see here. So... We added more stuff specifically for the Shadow Boss monster, so the config variables would be mirrored. She's brave to stream this style of coding. I do get a lot of comments about it. Usually negative, but it's okay. It is what it is. It's my hobby project, so I kind of get to do what I want, you know? But I also understand it's not great. Like, I can realize that, but I can also say that I want to do that at the same time. I wanted to go back. Let's look at the Ground Slam effect code. And no, that's the same. I wanted to look at this. So we added these. So we modified player. What else did we modify? Because there has to be more. 6 changes. Oh, here we go. So like, okay, I see here. We have like if has enchant slam shock. What happened to this? Where'd that go? Because I'm looking at Ground Slam effect, right? And I'm not seeing that anywhere. Oh, right here. If settings has... Okay, so this isn't getting populated right. Or it's just not spawning. Like one of the two, right? Okay. Because... Yeah, let's see here. So... Oh, that's probably where we left off. So we have this settings struct, and we have to set them for the player specifically when we create these abilities. And I assume we haven't done that yet. It should have been right after lifetime. So here's the effect lifetime. It should have been for specifically the Ground Slam effect. There's 2 effects here. And they are... Neither of them are the Ground Slam effect. I don't... Oh, this is old. Okay. So basically, we were starting to work on this, Ground Slam effect, and then we never utilized it yet. So basically, we're going to add one effect called the Ground Slam effect, which I'm going to have to include, because it's not included in here. So, include Ground Slam effect, maybe? Is this not a header file? Oh. No, it's an effect T, isn't it? Hold on. Shouldn't it already be known then? Okay, it is known. So then we have to follow the constructor. So the constructor says pause Z, lifetime settings, upper level fade out, color, and additive blending. So we have pause. Z is going to be the same as the player Z. So get Z. Which by this point should be the ground. Like we literally set Z to 0. The need to scroll horizontally would usually be unforgivable. Oh, I see. That's fair. Yeah, I think that's like the biggest thing is people are like, whoa, you code horizontally. It's kind of weird. I'm like, yep. Alright. And then the next argument is supposed to be lifetime, which is from a variable. I assume it's this. But let's double check, right? making assumptions is bad. So here's the warrior configuration file. We're gonna go down to the ground slam, and in here we have effect lifetime, which is, I presume, what we're trying to use. So we're gonna use that, and then the next item is the settings. So we're gonna bring over this object and just make a new settings object that contains a populated version of the ground slam settings enum. I believe it is actually a substruct of this. Yes, okay. And then we can implement all of its settings. So if I go to the class real quick, here are all the settings we have to implement. I'm going to put you over here. And now we can implement them. So we can use the dot to indicate each one, so we kind of know what we're looking at as well. So I can just go ahead and say, take all these guys, put them over here, add a, well, remove the types, which do like this. Oh, that didn't quite work because of standard. And then put a dot in front of it, and then an equal sign and a comma. So it'll look like this. So dot range is going to be, now we just fill in the blanks, right? So the range is supposed to be the radius, which is right here. We're going to prefix everything with warrior ability 2, very likely. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that now. And then we have, so we have range. It's a float. I think most of these are going to be floats. Knockback amount. Knockback AMT. Horizontal coder chiming in. Yay! Another horizontal coder. Woo! We're not alone. Knockback reduction. Okay. Knockback weight factor. Damage. Damage is... I assume this is supposed to be a damage multiplier, but let me check. How does that work? Because how do we use settings? We do settings.damage. Oh, so it's the direct damage. So it would be take the damage mult and multiply it by our attack. And then we have friendly. This is indeed a friendly attack. So we set that to friendly type, or just friendly. Internally, it's the friendly type enum. Visual radius. Visual radius. Okay, so this is the actual, like, circle size. And it gets divided by 64, which is the image size. So basically, this is like a scaling factor that we can use to make sure it appears correctly in-game. So if I just put 64 for now, and we'll see what happens. It also gets divided by 2. Like, this is weird. It gets divided by 2 here. Divided by 64, divided by 2. So clearly it's like a scalar, but it's like a factor of 2. I'm not exactly sure how or why I'm doing that, but I can see here it's calling the effect constructor, which the effect constructor has a... I think this is just a float. Yeah, so it's just a float that scales the original image. So it's going to be half the radius, which makes sense, I guess. So if I put that as the range, it should work, in theory. The range, take the range and convert it to pixels. So we'll do the range, but as pixels. So basically pixels... If we say 350 range, we basically use 100 units as one tile, and that just converts it. Or at least it should if it... User-defined literal not found. I could have sworn this... Is it pixel? Underscore pixel. I think that's supposed to be a color. I thought this was a thing. But no, this converts a color. Funny enough, the framework I use calls a color a pixel, which is kind of misleading sometimes. But yeah, it's just adopted from there. I swear there was one for converting distances. But anyways, the conversion would be take the value, divide by 100, and multiply by 24. So this is like the explicit way to do that. And then finally, we have whether or not we have the Slam Shock enchant. So that's determined by calling has enchant. And we put the enchant name, which I assume is Slam Shock, but we're gonna have to double check. So let's open up the enchantments database and just take a look. So Slam Shock. Yes, that is what it's called. And then sound effect name. So there is a sound effect for this. I guess I could go find it real quick. I could look at the previous code, but I'd have to pull up the branch again. So I'm pretty sure I should be able to find it in sounds. Maybe we called it like ground slam or something? No. Did I call it like warrior? Oh, here we go. Warrior ground slam.ogg. So that is the sound. I assume it wants the file name. Actually, what does it want? Play sound. Oh. Okay, it's just literally built in. So I'm good. We don't have to play the sound effect. Wait, should we? That, maybe we should use that if we included that. I feel like maybe we were gonna do something different for the enemy. But yeah, the sound effect name is its actual name. So we have to go to SFX or sound. Sound effect. Or is it under events? It is. So here's all the sound effects in the game. We're looking for ground slam. So warrior ground slam is the name of it. Like so. Cool. I think those are all the settings needed to spawn a ground slam. So that should be good now. So we can replace this with settings. I'm gonna make that more specific and call it ground slam settings. And then what's next? The next argument is upper level. So on upper level, the fade out time, if there is one. I think there is one. Affect fade time. Your page answer my question. Oh, okay, good. But yeah, it retrieves variables from configuration files. So I can just put the literal variable name and it will look that up for me. Which is nice. And it, the underscore F stands for float, there's integer, etc. Different types. In retrospect, if I were to do it nowadays, I would probably do a, like, get property and put a type in here and use a template, right? I think that would be better, but that's what we did back then. Also, it's short. I do like that it's short. I think that was one of the selling points, was it was just really... It's a really tight syntax to use, and I just know I can type the variable name out and put underscore whatever after. So affect fade time is warrior ability 2. Is it literally right next to us? It is. Okay. And then color and additive blending. So blend color, let's just keep it white for now. I think these are optional as well. Are they? Are these optional? It looks like they're not. Can I go to the declaration, please? That's not... Declaration. Thank you. So fade out, color, and additive blending are all default. have defaults, so I'll remove that. We don't need the second effect anymore, so we just create one effect and pass it into add effect. I think we have to be explicit about the type, and then we're good. I think it can auto-deduce the type there, so we don't need that part. And then no instance of constructor. So let's see, what did we forget? We have 2D, float, Grand Slam setting. Where'd the settings go? Settings. Oh, Ground Slam. I must have deleted it by accident. Ground Slam settings on upper level. Okay, so now it's happy. Cool. So that should at least spawn the Ground Slam effect for the player. Now, whether or not it works like it did before is another question. I think the first thing we could do is try unit testing and see what happens. Let me just build. I don't want to run every unit test right now. And then we'll just try the 3 ones for Ground Slam, because that's all that matters right now. They're called Slam Shot, Enchant Check, Improved Ground Slam, Enchant Check. Ooh, I don't know if this works. Because Improved Ground Slam changes, I think, the range. Improved Ground Slam, no Enchant Check. Or no, I think it just does more damage. So the damage probably is affected by it. I need to... Yeah, we need to reference the old code for this. Because I'm pretty sure this modifier plays into here. So how did we do this? Or what did we do? Right? So this was under player. We go to changes. It was... So let's see where modified damage. It probably got passed in somewhere. Okay. So the hurt function was right here. So Ground Slam damage was calculated by taking... Huh? Oh. It's additive. So the initial damage comes from get attack times damage mult. That makes sense. That's what we did there. But then I see. So if we have improved Ground Slam, we have to do other things. So let me take all these guys. I guess I want to take this too. What is numb for? Where did I use that? Did I use that? It doesn't look like I ever used numb, so I'm not sure what's going on there. That's kind of weird, right? Numb. Okay, it looks like an unused variable. That's kind of pointless. Okay. So, oh, I see. I already have these 3 variables here. So it's just this enchant modifies them. So I probably deleted this by accident, but there we go. And then Grand Slam visual range gets modified. So I guess I just plug and play these 3. And we're good to go. Yeah, I didn't even see these up here, so that's my bad. And then it should basically work the way it used to, I think. Also, our build failed. Convert from float to int requires narrowing conversion. I assume that's damage? Yes. But now it is an int, so that works. Okay. Oh, there's another narrowing conversion for the visual radius. I might as well make it an int then. I guess I'll cast it right here. That's kind of weird. Visual range. I mean, I guess. I don't see why it couldn't be a float though, because it's a scalar. Kind of. So, let me see. I think I'll just change it in the struct. I don't see why it's an int. Okay. So we'll just do that. So once the project recompiles in like 2 or 3 minutes, then we'll run those unit tests, see if they pass. If they don't, then, well, we didn't implement something correctly. And then if those work, we can just try it in-game real quick. Make sure... I think visually, nothing funky will happen, but if something does, then we gotta address that, right? It should basically look the same as it did before. What's the difference between game coding and usual coding? I think for game coding, for one, it's like a bit more creative process, right? Like if you're designing a certain piece of software, it's usually for like a customer or a user, and like you kind of have like set criteria for it, right? But because a game is a more like creative process, what you implement isn't necessarily what you keep. Like you might change the feature set down the line. And yes, that does happen for software, but at the same time, you kind of know what you're going for. And the only reason software changes is because like maybe the customer requests like a feature to be different, right? Either a new feature or a modification to a current feature that doesn't work the way they expect. So I think that's one of the key differences. The other key differences is like the spheres you work in. So a game loop at its core is a while loop that just runs continuously, right? It's a tight while loop. And so in a game, you're trying to output, for most games, at least 60 frames per second. You have a very limited window of time to render everything. So a lot of times the big problems that come up when you're doing game software versus like just regular software that runs when you like click a button, it like waits for user input. A game is like can be active every single frame if you wanted it to. So I think that's one of the big things to work around is real-time input handling, real-time rendering. Those are the big challenges when it comes to game development. And then you also have like other things like games typically are graphical. So usually you would expect you're dealing with more like shader programming, animations, timers. Like there are some things that you just don't really do in software programming, right? Maybe sometimes, occasionally. But all the gamey elements, like you think like, how do you track like each individual monster entity? How do you track like, how do you make like a puzzle work if like your player is like on a grid and has to push stuff around? The interactions can get very dynamic, and so you usually end up working with even like little game physics code too. I think those are the most unique aspects of working on game code. All right, so let me test these 4 tests. I know one of them passed, but it's because there was no enchant. So the no enchant one passed. Okay, so these all still fail for whatever reason. And they all still seem to produce the same result, which is also interesting. So something doesn't work quite right. What I think I'll do is I'll compile it and try to run it in game, and let's just see what happens. Where we're at with this. Because in my head, the ground slam effect gets generated, it gets called here, the effect handles hurting targets, and then it also handles knockback and plays a sound effect. It should be doing all these things, at the very least. So if it's not doing those things, then something really terrible has happened. I can agree with that, yeah. A lot more logic-based, for sure. Yeah, of course. I appreciate the curiosity. It gets me to think a little bit about it too, right? Like when I'm designing like a web page in like React versus like designing like a speedrun timer application versus like making this game, there's some major design differences that go into each one. So, yeah. Or like making like a video editor or maybe like a sound editor or something. All these things have vastly different requirements. But I think at least games share one thing, which is like a pretty tight loop. Has to be updated constantly. Because it's like a real-time application, right? Let me just go in here and try to use it. Let me go back a little bit. This is fine. Okay, let's see what happens. No effect. Interesting. So one thing we did do was we changed this number, because presumably I thought I meant to put pi here, because sine wave, one whole period goes, well, half a period goes from up to down. That's what creates the little arc, is it uses that sine wave to determine the z, right? So I'm not sure why it doesn't create this. That's kind of weird. I wonder if it's because, like, the lifetime isn't long enough or something, or it's not set right. But surely it's getting called, right? Because we should be getting here. At least I hope so. I'll try it again. Do I have, like, a... whatever. It'll expire soon. I think I have like a cheat cooldown potion thing, but okay. So I mean, we hit this, so, and this thing probably has good values. Like, these all look correct. And then I guess the next question is, how do these parse? Like, what is lifetime and stuff? So lifetime is optimized out. That's wonderful. Okay. Oh. Anything useful here? Upper level fade out color. Okay. Well, that doesn't really tell us anything, so we're gonna have to go into debug. I assume it's something to do with the lifetime variable if it's just not appearing. Because I assume everything else would be fine. It's just when the lifetime hits 0, it expires. And we set the lifetime to 0.5, which should represent half a second. I would not expect it to immediately hit 0. Unless... hold on. Unless this state keeps occurring, right? But we leave this state immediately upon spin attack timer hitting 0. So I don't expect we're stuck in this state every single tick. So I don't think it's that. And like... If it had a lifetime, then this would have occurred, but the monsters didn't get hurt either. So we know the update didn't occur, and we definitely didn't hear a sound effect. So something's up with this. It either the game didn't add the effect, or... like, yeah. I'm a little confused right now, but that's why we're going to debug. Since something weird just happened. And the effect has 2 sprites, which is why we're spawning another effect in this effect. But it's not the same, it's not a ground slam effect, so this isn't like This isn't recursive or anything. And I made the color white, so it's not like it's invisible. Like I said, even if it was invisible, it would have done damage if it was actually on the field. So yay, more debugging. It's just debug mode is so dang slow. With so much going on. I think this is gonna be the last thing we do for now. We'll have to pick it up on Thursday because I won't be coding Wednesdays. So we'll see what happens. I'm glad I got some good coding time in today, though. Definitely more than the last few streams. Let's just use it. Okay. So I'm going to go straight into the add effect call. What did that return? So that returned a 0.6. That was probably for the fade out, which makes sense. Let's just keep going. I kind of want to just go straight to add effect. So let's just go there. Oh. Okay, we enter the constructor first. I guess that makes sense. So the lifetime is properly populated, and it's passed into the child... Well, hopefully the child constructor is correct, right? I guess we'll find out if we... Oh, shoot. We already passed the child constructors, but we can look at this object's lifetime and make sure it's good. So, lifetime is currently 0.5 for this object, so we're okay. So it did get set successfully. This add effect should have been called. So next, it should have called add effect. We're going to leave this one because that was the background effect. And then this is the ground slam effect, which has its own stuff in it. And we can see the lifetime is populated to be 0.5 here. So I assume this just does what it's supposed to do. Like, I don't expect this not to work. And then it should return the effect ref, which is fine. So yeah, that all works. The effect is added to the effect list. So yeah, it should be under the effect manager now. If I go to effect list, which is a static variable, I think. Oh wait, it's effect lit. Effect manager, foreground effect list. I assume it's a foreground effect. So let's see if we can view it real quick. I just go under these watches and add it. Oh, right here. So slot 0. Has, let's see. So this is a normal effect. So what happened to the ground slam effect? Is it a background effect? It might be a background effect. Background effect list. Okay, so this one has an effect as well. This one is... Oh, this one's a variant of type effect too. It should be of type ground slam effect. Uh-oh, that's not good. So, like, the type got lost somehow. How did that happen? Oh. Is it because of the auto-deduce template not working? No, it figured it out. At least according to IntelliSense it did. I'm a little confused. I don't think in the debugger the variant would not have shown the correct type. At least it shouldn't have. But just for safety, I'm gonna go ahead and say this is a ground slam effect. I don't think that would change anything. I doubt it would. Because that should be the same. It should be implied. but it looks like we're losing the type somehow. So if that's the case, I'm gonna have to figure that out next time. Why we're losing the type here. It's kind of strange. Unless I messed up and didn't add it to, like, effect T, but then I think it wouldn't know what it was. Like, where's the... Okay. So, under effect T, we have ground slam effect, right? Oh, shoot, we don't. We didn't add it to our variant. Okay, that's why. So it defaulted to an effect. See, this is what I was annoyed by when I was deciding to implement this visitor system for effects using a variant. If you put an invalid type, it doesn't properly error. It actually just allows it, which is like the stupidest thing I've ever seen. So like, you have to be really careful because you can easily make that happen. So it didn't, because ground slam effect wasn't in this variant, it then tried the next best thing, which is just a normal effect, which is the child class, which is still a valid class. So one thing I've considered was making effect abstract and then having another effect type called like generic effect. That way this child class thing can't happen and the compiler can't assume that it's valid. So I may go that route just for the error handling aspect of it so that this doesn't occur and we don't get like invisible bad behavior. Because that's dangerous. So that's actually a bug that I want to address next time. Is convert effect into an abstract class and then handle it that way. Why isn't this working? Did I typo it? Ground slam effect? No, I didn't typo it, right? Effect types. Do we not include it in types? Surely we did, right? It's literally just ground slam effect. Oh. Okay. Weird. IntelliSense is being weird about it. I don't know why. Did I not include, like... I feel like IntelliSense is trolling me. Syntax error. Oh. I put a comma. I'm used to enums, that's why. Okay. It's not an enum, it's a template, so... Oops. That's why. I'll try this one more time, and then I think it's time to call it. Looks like we'll have to do a recompile. Full recompile. But hopefully it spawns, hopefully it works, and then we can go ahead and commit for now. I think I'll remove all breakpoints. I think we discovered the issue. I did not expect the issue was going to be the type of the class stored itself. That's a new problem. This effect system is a very new system, so that happening, we haven't really used the effect system before because this system used to be very different until I converted to like a visitor pattern. So now that we have that, this is the first time I really got to use it and see some of the pitfalls. And one thing we tried to figure out when we're implementing something is, okay, in a real use case for it, is it going to function the way I need to? Are there going to be problems? We have to dissect those and figure out, okay, how can we improve it so it's more usable? And turning effect into an abstract class, so it's not just a child of all these, would be the correct move. That way I can remove it from the variant list. And it won't improperly, like, think that it's a valid item. Basically, it's like type decaying by accident. Also, this might be possible with reflection now. I just thought about that. we might be able to auto-populate this with reflection. That could be a fun experiment. I know reflection's like super duper new, but that might be a fun little like programming stream to try and implement. Try and populate a variant template using reflection. That could be fun. I think that's a perfect use for it. I'd have to see. I'd have to learn the capabilities, see what the API looks like, blah blah blah. It'll be a fun little experiment though. I'll do some research. I'll figure out if we can. Maybe that'll be like something experimental on Thursday. We'll see. Because I still want to take care of the RAM issue as well. So that's another thing. Oh, okay. That was not the sound I was expecting. But okay. Progress, maybe? I guess we'll call it here. At least we hear a sound, but it's not what I was expecting at all, so... yeah. But for those of you that tuned in today, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I guess we have a debugging issue to do on Thursday. But yeah, take care everyone. Bye-bye.